One common type of database is a relational database. A relational database consists of a collection of data with predefined relationships between its contents. This means data in a relational database has a relationship to at least one other piece of data in the database. Often, the collection of data is organized into tables with columns and rows. Each column in a table holds a certain type of data, and each row has a set of values related to one entity. Let's take a look at an example. This is a depiction of a relational database named School with a single table named Students. The Students table has 3 columns: name, GPA, and class year. Each row holds this information about a given student. For example, in the first case, we have Sally, 3.65 in 2023. All of this information is about Sally, the student. We often call each row a record to this table, because if we added another entry or record to the table, we would be adding another row, another set of data with the student name, GPA, and class year. Some of these values could be null, but an entire row or record would still be added. This example only had one table, but I could have multiple tables within a database. Say, I could add a table for offered classes. To do this, I would need to add a primary key to each row and a foreign key to related tables. A primary key is a unique identifier for a row in a table, and it can be used in another table as a foreign key to connect rows among multiple tables. This allows us to access the data in various different ways without reorganizing the database itself. The main thing to remember with a relational database is that we identify and access data in relation to other pieces of data. In order to create and update a relational database, we'll need to use a Relational Database Management System, an RDBMS. This is a special type of program that allows us to work with relational databases. You may have heard of them before, but some common examples of management systems are SQLite, MySQL, or PostgreSQL, and we'll be working with all of these using Python in this course. Many of these relational database management systems use the SQL or SQL language to access the database. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it's a language we can use to communicate with our database. Now, I know what you're thinking. A new programming language? No way! I already know Python. Well, I have good news for you. SQL is not a programming language, and in fact, its syntax changes depending on which relational database system you use. Since we'll be working with these databases in Python, there are a few ways we'll be able to connect and manipulate our databases, including with SQL. However, it can be useful to understand a few basic SQL queries to grasp the bigger picture. The first statement you should know is the select statement. This select statement selects and returns all of the data from the students table. Students represents a table, not a database, which would have been configured prior to this. Instead of selecting the entire table, we could select a specific column from the table. This query would return all the student names in the student database, but not the information about each student's class year or GPA. Great! Now we know how to retrieve information using SQL from a database. What about updating data, filtering data, or inserting data? As we continue through the course, we'll pick up more SQL along the way as we need it, but most SQL statements reference select, column names, or a table in some way.